Conversations That Matter is a partner program for the Center for Dialogue at Simon Fraser University. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you.
So, Commander Marc Crawford, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Stu.
The United States Navy, and we're talking about a pretty substantial military force. How do you define your role, especially in 2016 and as we move forward in uncertain times globally?
Sure, that's a great question, Stu. Really, the Navy's mission for us is to provide combat-capable naval forces who are capable of winning wars, deterring aggression, promoting freedom and security on the high seas, all while promoting peace and security as well. So one of the great things about the U.S. Navy is we are operating around the world every hour of every day. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is being where it matters and when it matters.
So you're in the process right now of doing a Homeport move. Where were you going to, and why are you making that move?
So we are completing our Homeport change from San Diego, California up to Everett, Washington. This is a tremendous opportunity for us to meet the people of Vancouver, our new neighbors, if you will, as we move into the neighborhood. And it gives us the opportunity to continue to strengthen that bond, that partnership that we have with our Canadian brothers and sisters across the border, whether it be in the Navy or in other military forces. And this is all part of a replacement plan, if you will, as the U.S. Navy decommissioned the Oliver Hazard Perry-class frigates over the last several years. So we are executing several Homeport changes for Arleigh Burke destroyers, which are more capable platforms to conduct a myriad of combat operations across the spectrum to replace those decommissioned frigates.
So a destroyer is a more substantial ship than a frigate.
Yes, sir.
And how many destroyers are moving into Everett then in replacing those three frigates?
So over the course of the next year and a half, we have 4 new destroyers that are moving up to Everett, Washington.
How important is the relationship with the Canadian Navy, seeing as there's going to be a change in the makeup of the presence that is here in the Pacific Northwest for the U.S. Navy?
I think it only further strengthens our bonds. It's not the first time the Canadian Navy operates with Arleigh Burke destroyers. Matter of fact, HMCS Calgary and HMCS Vancouver are doing that just right now in the Rim of the Pacific exercise going on in the Hawaiian operating area. So it's not much change other than it enhances the capability that the U.S. can respond to jointly with the Canadians if there were a need to arise.
You talk about an Arleigh Burke destroyer. What exactly is that?
Well, an Arleigh Burke destroyer is 509 feet, 9,200 tons of combat power, and it's brought to life by the 300 sailors on board who make the weapon systems fire, who help the engines to light off and to help our shafts turn. It's the sailors that control the aircraft, hundreds in a day that we can control and manage the airspace.
Wow. So you say there's approximately 300 personnel. What's the makeup of your crew, male to female, and how do you start to build a crew that can live and work together when you're on those long deployments?
Let's do it. Male to female, we have about 20% female to 80% male ratio right now, and that fluctuates. It can be as low as 15, but I've seen it upwards of 30-35% as well.
Depending on who's rotating in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say that my crew is one of the great things about the U.S. Navy is it's an all-volunteer force. We are but a mere cross-section of society. So I have sailors on board that come from all corners of the United States and from across the globe as well. And we work well together. We work as a family, work as a team in order to achieve whatever mission we're tasked with.
To be a sailor in the U.S. Navy, do you have to be a U.S. citizen?
No, you do not.
Oh, you don't. So other people can volunteer to join the U.S. Navy?
That is correct.
Probably doesn't happen that often, though, I don't think.
I have a few on my crew who are not U.S. citizens, but what ends up happening is through their service, through their dedication to duty and commitment to the United States, it accelerates their citizenship process.
So, this is the USS Gridley.
Yes, sir.
Who was Gridley?
The Gridley is named after Captain Charles Gridley, who had command of the USS Olympia during the Battle of Manila Bay during the Spanish and American War. The ship's motto, "Fire when ready," comes from that Battle of Manila Bay, where Captain Gridley, who was commanding Olympia there, had Commodore Dewey embarked at the time, and Commodore Dewey and Captain Gridley had a long-standing relationship, and Dewey actually had a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in Captain Gridley and the Olympia crew, in that they would be able to handle whatever mission or whatever task was assigned to them. So as the U.S. fleet steamed into Manila Bay that morning to surprise the Spanish Armada, Commodore Dewey gave Gridley the command, "You may fire when ready, Gridley." And he did that because he had the confidence that Gridley would fire when ready, that he would not fire prematurely or wait too long, that he would do it just when the time was right.
So let's talk about a couple other things about the sort of operations of a
Sure.
ship like this. What does operational tempo mean, or op tempo?
Operational tempo is really a ratio of how often a ship is away from home port versus how often it is back in home port. So they could have a very high op tempo, or they could be very low. So when a ship is in a maintenance period, they tend to be in port for several months at a time, anywhere from 3 to 9 to 12 sometimes even. But we go into a training cycle, and for the U.S. Navy we call it the basic and integrated phase. And we take time to get the crew ready to train, and that's during the basic phase. And then after the basic phase, we do the integrated phase, and that's where we start conducting training with other ships, including the aircraft carrier or the big deck amphibious helicopter landing ship that we may be operating with as well.
And the whole purpose of that training is to be deployment ready.
Exactly.
I've got to get you to hang on for just 1 second while we take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
So, if we take a look at the overall U.S. fleet, it has been reduced in the volume of ships, and yet it's my understanding that the need for the ships to be in service is actually increasing. What does that do as far as length of deployments are concerned?
There's a lot of factors that go into the length of the deployments and the requirements for the ships as they deploy into theater. So as the requirements change, I wouldn't necessarily say they are increasing, but they are definitely not decreasing, but they are changing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it fluctuates. We're trying to standardize that through the optimum ship's deployment cycle, through the OFRP, Optimum Force Readiness Plan. But as we implement that plan, the goal is to standardize that to about 8 months.
What's the longest deployment that this ship's been on?
We just recently completed our most recent deployment actually was from August of 2014 through June of 2015. That was about a 10-month deployment, which actually happened to make history in that it was the longest scheduled U.S. deployment since Vietnam, at least for a naval ship, and we did it as part of a deployment with the Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group.
So does the crew stay on board through that entire deployment?
Some of the crew does, but we don't ever lock the crew in during any phase of the ship's life. We pride ourselves on being able to not have any single points of failure. So if it comes time for a sailor to transfer, we make sure that their replacement has received the requisite training and is fully capable when they arrive on board the ship.
10 months out from home port, though, that's a long time.
It is.
How do you keep your crew together so that they're not starting to go, I want to go home?
That's a great question, Stu. And one thing I would say about my crew here on Gridley is they are an extremely resilient crew. Through that 10-month deployment, there were things that I was worried about, and they may seem trivial, but I knew that the crew was not going to be able to watch the National Football League, the Super Bowl, be able to watch the World Series, and that's on top of already being away from our friends and family that long, missing Christmas and New Year's and all the holidays and the birthdays, anniversaries. That's very challenging. But I think what it gets to is, as leaders, we have to take care of our sailors, and we have to help cultivate a culture where we are looking after each other. So there are simple things that we can do to take care of the crew, and one of those things is information sharing. You know, communications is a challenge in any organization, and one of the things about my crew is they can shoulder adversity with ease, and they make the impossible possible. Where sailors tend to have challenges is with uncertainty. And because if there is uncertainty in the equation, then that limits their ability to make plans both on a personal and professional level. So one of the things that I like to do is get the information out to the crew. And sometimes I would get on the 1MC, which is our general announcing circuit throughout the ship, and pass out schedule changes for the whole crew at the same time. Not because I wanted to hear myself speak, but because I wanted to get the information out expeditiously. And I've been told numerous times that was, the crew appreciated that. That is something that they truly appreciate. So it's those little things. MWR bingo nights, where we would get the crew together on the mess decks and do bingo or movies on the flight deck. Those little things that we can do to take care of the crew make a huge difference. As I alluded to before, the crew is just amazing. They help me to be tremendously humbled, and I am very proud to be their commanding officer. If I can take care of them, if I can provide them the resources they need to do their job, so whether that's the time, the training, the tools, the parts, whatever support I can give them, I want to do that, because if I can make their job easier, then I want to do that.
This is our second break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
So when you're out at sea for that long, what's the day of a sailor look like? Like, how many hours do you work? Like, when you're not working, what do you do?
Sure. No, that's a great question, because one of the questions I ask my sailors at the check-in interviews is, what are your hobbies? And the reason I ask that is because life on a ship, the U.S. Navy classifies life on a ship as unusually arduous sea duty. And it is...
With emphasis on arduous, yeah.
and unusual, right?
Oh, okay,
so,
yeah.
It is unusually arduous sea duty for a reason, and because there are long days, there are long hours. So a typical day starts with breakfast, and then we have some meetings for the information to be passed out to each of the sailors if they're not standing watch up here on the bridge or in any of the other spaces on the ship.
So when they rise from their bunk, are they on duty at that moment, or do they have personal time to get ready to be prepared for the day?
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, but we do afford time to our sailors to invest in themselves. It's important to me that the sailors are not working constantly every hour of every day, because they need to invest in themselves. They need to give themselves some downtime to take their minds off of work. And some of the things that I have found over time that have been really successful to help them decompress from the stress is something as simple as reading or exercising or even playing video games. Sometimes just going topside on the deck and sitting out in the sun reading a book, those are amazing coping mechanisms, if you will, to help them deal with the stresses of life at sea.
So they start, they have breakfast, there's some meetings and briefings. then what does their day look like beyond that? And how long does it go?
Sure. So I would say there's going to be at least one, probably two 4-hour periods to stand watch somewhere on the ship. Sometimes it's at a controlling station like the pilot house. It could be in the engineering plant. It could be down in the Combat Information Center. They will stand some watch, and sometimes that varies anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. They'll also be conducting maintenance. If when I talk about our junior sailors and our mid-grade sailors, they'll be conducting maintenance on the equipment, preservation on the ship, and then planning meetings to take care of the myriad of tasks that a ship like Gridley is assigned while we're out operating.
And how long during the day will they go before you say, okay, you're on your own, and then go to sleep?
Based on sleep schedules, sailors will operate 24/7. So it depends on what time of day they're standing their watch.
Yeah.
So we don't all sleep from 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. Some sailors will sleep from noon to 1800. So it really depends on what their watch schedule is. And so most sailors will probably work about 18 hours a day, maybe 14 hours a day. And they'll be afforded time to take care of that hobby, to decompress. Sometimes they just want to watch TV.
Fascinating life aboard a ship like this, and I wish we could keep going, but I got to take one last quick break. We'll be right back.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
18 hours, that's a long day.
It is.
And that's 7 days a week.
It is.
Throughout the entire deployment.
Throughout the entire deployment.
Unusually arduous, I think, is correct.
Yes.
Because it keeps going and going and going. It's not, you can't see the finish line, really.
It is a challenge. It's a high op tempo, and but through those experiences, it also builds esprit de corps and camaraderie, and it's those unique experiences that we are able to go through together that help forge a tight crew.
So you said this is 519 feet?
509 feet long.
9 feet
Yes.
long. How fast can you go?
We can go upwards of 30 knots and higher.
30 knots or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what kind of power do you have on board that can generate that sort of speed for a vessel of this size? Because that's going to take power.
That does take a lot of power, and we have 4 gas turbine engines. They're the same type of aircraft engines that are in a DC-10, so they're the LM2500 gas turbine engines, and they generate about 100,000 shaft horsepower.
So, and then when you're moving at 30 knots, how quickly can you stop and then be backing up?
If I needed to go backwards, I could do so in about 1 ship length, maybe a little longer.
1 ship length from 30 knots?
Correct.
That sounds almost like is everybody hitting the windshield because you're stopping so hard?
No, it's actually it's amazingly graceful. There is a little shuddering of the ship as it slows.
Because it'd be that transfer of energy through the hull. Yeah.
But the way our ships are designed with our propeller system, our shafts don't have to change directions. So we just change the pitch of the propellers, and that enables us to be able to stop so fast and to be going in a stern direction so quick.
As far as your ability to patrol and maintain a particular area, what's the kind of range that you have? Like bottom of the ocean to the where and how far out?
Well, Stu, it's funny, when we do qualification boards to become a surface warfare officer, they're very strenuous boards. We expect our officers to have a very comprehensive understanding of the spectrum of operations that we are capable of conducting. And one of the things that we talk about in those boards is our ships, our destroyers like Gridley, are capable of conducting operations from the ocean bottom all the way out into outer space, because it runs the gamut of operations from undersea warfare or anti-submarine warfare to ballistic missile defense and out in the exo-atmosphere.
You You pointed out earlier that the primary goal, of course, is that you are a warship.
That's correct.
But what else do you do? Like, that's not all you do. Like, you're
No.
here in a port of call, you're flying the flag. This is almost like a public relations mission. But what are some of the other missions that you're tasked with?
Sure. So one of the, we have 24 missions that we are capable of conducting. And
24 different missions.
24 different missions. And some of those other missions really are in the case of disaster. So
So they're humanitarian. in nature.
Exactly. So humanitarian assistance, disaster relief missions are not uncommon for ships like Gridley to participate in. So the earthquake in Haiti, the U.S. Navy was the first ones on the scene to provide relief to those to the citizens of Haiti as they responded to that earthquake and went through that horrible situation where they lost their homes, and then even the tsunami that hit in 2004 in Indonesia. Again, the U.S. Navy with the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group and Bonhomme Richard Amphibious Readiness Group were the first ones on the scene to provide relief to those distressed
So what
citizens.
kind of relief can you provide from a destroyer or from another of the naval ships that would be deployed to that?
Sure. So if I were to use some of our other ships first, so we have the USNS Mercy, which is a hospital ship. They obviously bring the medical and dental capability to treat injured personnel that maybe have unfortunately have become injured as a result of the natural disaster. And then there's also other ships like the aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln. They bring tremendous amount of aircraft that can provide logistics support, flying in not just from the aircraft carrier to the shore, the supplies, but also from land out to the aircraft carrier for further transportation into the affected area. Because sometimes, like in Banda Aceh, there is no airport. So the aircraft carrier serves as that logistics hub that can provide further transfer of supplies, whether they be food, water, medical, clothing, from ashore to the ship and then to the affected area.
It's a pretty exciting career, huh?
It is. I've seen things and done things through my 19 years that some only read about in a book or see in a movie. So I'm tremendously grateful for the opportunities the Navy's presented.
Well, welcome to Vancouver, and thank you ever so much for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Stu.